Welcome to another Monday Morning Pastor, where we look at a point or two from yesterday's message to help us get through the week. And today's emphasis is rather diabolical, shall we say, or concerning the diabolos, which is another word for the devil or for Satan. Yes, the subject came up yesterday, and you may know that more than half Americans believe that there is a devil, and we're going to talk about him in just a moment. It seems like there are extremes on the subject. I remember growing up seeing some rather silly caricatures of the devil, usually in red pajamas and a funky looking pitchfork and horns. That's kind of the silly cartoon version of him. And then on the other side, taking him way too seriously. I remember being told somewhere along the way, or maybe I saw it in a movie or something, that if you even thought the words, or certainly said the words, "I'm willing to make a deal with the devil," that he would show up and make an offer to you for your soul. So we're going to try to come at this from a more balanced perspective. So it did come up in our sermon yesterday. Let me set this up. Paul, the apostle, is writing this letter to the Thessalonians. He actually wrote two, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, and he talks about how he wants to see them. And he says these words. Paul says to this church, in this great church, a really terrific church in this Greek city of Thessalonica, he says, "When we were separated from you for a short time, out of our intense longing, we made every effort to see you. For I wanted to come to you over and over again, but Satan blocked our way." Satan blocked our way. What in the world is that all about? Does that mean that Satan showed up in person? Does it mean that the road was washed out and Paul's blaming Satan for that? Does it mean perhaps that he ran out of travel money, or that he had too much opposition, or that there was actually a horde of demons that prevented and restrained him from going? And how did Paul even know that it was Satan? There are a lot of unanswered questions in this passage. But here we need to stop and recognize that the balanced biblical view of Satan is that he is always subordinate to God. He is always lesser than God. He was always weaker than God. Let's put it this way. Let's compare the strength of Satan in comparison to God as comparing the entire energy of the entire universe with the energy found in a pebble. Not even close. Satan is always in subjection to God. And you find that in probably the most important book in the Bible about Satan, the book of Job. Probably the first book written in the Bible. Go back to chapter 1 and read it, and basically you have this deal presented in heaven where Satan is saying to God, "You know, God, if you were to let me have at Job, he'll curse you. He'll curse you." And God says, "I'm willing to make that wager." And of course, the whole book is about all the terrible things that Job received from Satan, but managed not to curse God. And so a great lesson in that book for us is that God prevents the evil one, prevents Satan from hurting us, but sometimes Satan is permitted to cause problems, as he does here with Paul. Kept Paul from visiting this city of Thessalonica. We don't know how, but there was an upside to it. Oddly enough, because Paul did not visit this church, was not able to get there for reasons we don't know, Paul attributes it to Satan. Paul ends up writing two letters to this church, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, really important letters to New Testament theology. And if he had written those letters, we would have only had 25 letters or books in the New Testament instead of the 27 that we do. And so I and our church need to recognize the existence and reality of Satan, even though, quite frankly, I don't understand it. I don't understand why he's there. But I do that because Jesus did. Jesus acknowledged his existence, and the documents that cause me to believe in Jesus Christ, and I do passionately. I'm compelled to believe in Jesus Christ in large part because of the evidence of Scripture, namely the four Gospels. We find in those same four Gospels that speak of Jesus, they speak of Jesus's understanding of Satan. We see that in the temptations, the temptation of Jesus Christ, in the three of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And later on in John chapter 8, we find Jesus telling the Pharisees that their spiritual father is actually Satan, or the devil himself. Clearly, they didn't like that very well. Clearly, Jesus hadn't taken the Dale Carnegie course on how to win friends and influence people when he said that, yeah, your dad is the devil. So in short, I, as a follower, a believer in Jesus Christ, acknowledge, recognize, and am aware of the presence of pure personified evil, Satan, though I don't see him behind every sneeze, every flat tire, every bad day, every mental health condition. I believe he exists for this reason. Jesus did, and that's good enough for me, though I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions that I might have. So what do you think? Do you have any personal experience about Satan? I'd love to hear it. And again, there are extremes, from the extreme characterization of him that we see in cartoons and in movies, to the challenge of seeing Satan in every accident, every misery, every discomfort that we have. And I want to conclude with a verse that I think brings great balance to this. It's written by the Apostle John in 1 John, the letter of 1 John chapter 4, verse 4, when Jesus, using the Apostle Paul, says to us, greater is he, that may be God, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. That would be referring to Satan. Hey, thanks for watching today. I especially look forward to your comments. Have a great day.